Hey, this is a 1:8 scale model I made of Thanos from Avengers Infinity War using only paper. Well, yeah, technically I used some glue and markers and cardboard and tape, but, you know, paper sounds better. Anyway, this is how I did it. I always start with a drawing, an illustration of the character I want to make in the size and scale I want to make it, so I know the exact dimensions and proportions for each part. The point of these models is to add another dimensions to my drawings, because first and foremost, I like drawing. So this way I can see what my drawings will look like from every different angle and in various different poses without having to constantly redraw the thing. And when they are all made in the same scale, I can see how big each of them are when compared to each other, which is really exciting to me for some reason. Alright, so Thanos. Here are the drawings I'm using as a blueprint for Thanos, if you will. I have both a front and side view of the character with all the 3 dimensions needed. Then I moved on to the frame and articulation, which is like the most complicatedly simple thing there is. Like, it's really straightforward. I'll just show you. You start with a little tube of paper here. Then another tube goes around there for rotation. Then a piece of card will wrap around that pivot. And then another tube slots into there with some glue as well to make it extra strong. So I call this a T-joint because, you know, it sort of looks like a T. I made a video on it before. Then I wrap a long piece of card around the pin, gluing it from both sides. And you're left with this thing. Then I do that a few more times and yay! Now I have some hips, knees, and ankles. So it's pretty basic, it's just how they connect to each other that can get a little unique. But if I grab my drawing and line everything up like here, there, and this goes here, you can start to see how everything is going to come together. Then I wrap the big open card pieces around even larger tubes of paper, so you kind of get like 2 tubes connected by a joint. Then even more tubes slide around those ones for rotation, and these ones are glued inside to the other joints, forming the basic shape of the legs. Everything will just be stuck together and success. Look at that. Only a couple of weeks old and is already standing on his own. They grow up so fast, you know. Then, to fill in the extra gaps and really shape each of the parts, I have these structure pieces. It's basically just 2 symmetrical shapes attached together with a thin strip of paper that, when folded around and taped, form like a kind of little piece. It's this. I'm showing you. I don't know what you call it. And I'm very meticulous about the size of these pieces to make sure that when they attach to the frame that I've made, that they line up and have almost an identical curve and angle to match my drawing. Like the deltoid ones here, I have a few in the thighs and the calves, and then of course some for the chest and the back as well. Once all the structure pieces are in place, there it is. That's the general outline of the paper model. I follow this procedure for everything I make, just varying the dimensions and proportions, of course, to match my illustration. And that's the process. Simple, right? But simple doesn't mean easy, and his face was really tough. Like, I spent, like, just trust me. Like, when making his gorgeous mug, I was actually very intimidated by the task. I wanted it so badly to capture the look of Thanos that it meant creating something far more intricate than my previous work. Like, it was tough, and I still didn't even get it completely right, but fortunately, he does have a lot of little wrinkles and dimples and lines that I can hide the seams of paper behind. So I was able to split his facial features up into 6 different pieces, making the whole sculpting side of things a lot easier. You see, every time a character has a line representing a detail of some kind, that is an opportunity to cut the paper and fold it together without it looking ugly. You know, it won't be noticeable. Like if you look at Geen here, you can clearly see where I've cut the paper to curve his cheeks. But then if you look at Iron Man, where he actually has lines indicating where the curve is in his cheekbones, that just resulted in a much cleaner look. So at this point, after 3 attempts for the jaw and 4 attempts for the upper lip, I've got myself a nice little Thanos chin here. The only correction I'd make is I will increase the size of the lower lip and then shrink down the upper lip to really capture that big ol' underbite he's got. So I'm just gonna jump into the rest of it. First I need to cut the rough copy open, snip, snip, snip. Then I trace the shape onto the paper I'll be using to get the final copy and draw in all the details and color it in. So color, color, color. And bam, the upper lip section looked like this. Then I just proceeded to tape the curved lip to the flat upper part. And then I left this little strip of paper hanging down so that I could tuck that behind his chin, which just made things so much easier when lining everything up. I also had this kind of roof or lid for the upper lip section, and that's really just there to hold everything to the width and depth I want it. And so I have a flat surface to glue the rest of his head onto. Then I had this kind of piece here that just like stuck around the back of his head over the structure pieces I put in place. And there was heaps of little cuts in the paper as well, so you could fold everything around neatly. And this funky looking piece here was his eyes and the cheekbones as well, which I colored in. And then this was going to fold back across the structure pieces as well, just below the brow. So with the eyes just stuck on like this without the cheekbones pressed down, Thanos is looking weird. Like, this is hilarious. This is just cracking me up, just looking at this sitting on my desk. It's just like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Name's Thanos. And the fourth part of his face was these little parts here that went across his upper lip. I guess technically this was the fourth and fifth since I had two. So they were just glued on over the top of everything already in place. Looking good. And then the fifth part was his brow piece that was just folded back and glued over the top here. And then finally we had the little nose that was also just glued on over the top of everything. Everything has now come together. And here is all I have done of Thanos. And he's coming along pretty well. I'm just happy to have the dude standing so I can see what he looks like compared to everything else. And he's pretty massive, towering over all who stand, except Katakuri, because that dude's a freak. What do you guys think? Let me know down below, I'm curious. I was personally pretty disappointed with his face initially, actually. The proportions were a little bit off, and just, like, I knew what I was aiming for and I didn't quite get there in the end. Like, his lower chin was just a bit big and his forehead was a little bit too small. But what are you gonna do? I'm happy with it for now. I can always change it in the future. And it still looks like Thanos, even if it's not the exact best representation of the film version. So that's the video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. So overdone. I'm not gonna snap my fingers. That's just, it's such an obvious reference. Bye-bye.
Fine, I'll do it myself.